So we are going to take you through the property management system. I will call it rental management system. And in the system that I'm currently going to log in, almost all the information of that data has been cleared. So you're going to register this data one after the other and see how the system generally works in helping tenants, landlords, property managers manage their properties and tenancies. So I'm going to log in using the admin account. Of course, the system once again is role-based, and depending on your role, there are things that can be availed to you or hidden from you, and that is depending on the user role management. So I've just currently logged in, and you can see almost most of this particular information is 000. So just as you can see, this is a dashboard summary containing this particular summary information. And as you can see, you don't have any tenant registered, any property registered, any unit registered. Units are almost like rooms, and people call them rooms anyway. Yeah. So in this particular system, we are going to start by registering property and the property configurations, registration of units. Then we'll go through to the registration of tenants, and assigning this particular tenant, particular rooms or units, getting to have their rents raised or have their monthly rent invoices raised, have them pay, and see how the invoice and the receipts are coming out. And of course, look at other components that are within the system, how data flows, information is shared from one module to the other. So that is going to be it. So how do we register property in this particular property management system? Okay, I'll use the sidebar because these are just shortcuts. So with this, I'll navigate to property in the sidebar, the first module. Click on properties, and in this particular space, I'll be able to see generate bulk invoice and add property. So to register property, I'll click on add property. We have the property type here. Is it a building? Is it a plot? Any other that you would like to define? So where to register this particular property type is easy. I'll just temporarily close this one. How to register the property types is just still under the same properties, then have our property types as the second item just below that. So if I open this in my new tab, I'll see, of course, some of the registered property types. You can add any other type here, and you can even edit this one's appropriate. So I'll close that and just add a new property. This is a building. Product name, demo property 1. I'll give it a property code, demo property 1. Of course, these are not compulsory. Purchase price, development cost. If you have them, you can put them there. Property size in terms of measurement area, especially applies to lands and plots. The plot number where the property is. Yeah, if you have any plot number, this is where to put it. I'll just do a dummy one. The location in terms of longitude, latitude, that's the geolocation of the property. If you don't know this and the latitude and the longitude, you can use these particular maps, which you can just zoom in and out, and maybe pick a given point. If you know how to use Google Maps, let's say maybe the property is at that particular section. So you can observe that once you click that particular section, these ones will automatically be populated. If you have got a property image, you can put it there. And of course, any other description about the property, you can put it there, make it active, and just submit or click the save button. So that by default has created us this particular property. And as you can see, we have over the property code, the property name, About is just general information which you never had. The address, the type, the plot number, the units. Units are just like rooms. So if you should be having rooms, then of course you have to register that and the geolocation here. So what will be the next thing? I want to add, assuming this is a flat or maybe an apartment, I want to add units, property units. And I said units are just like different doors where different people can stay. So I'll click on view property. And after clicking view property, I'll be presented with this particular dashboard with the property information, a default image. Of course, you never uploaded an image. We also have the rent use, which is 0. We have 0 units, 0 tenants. I can add a unit. I can add unit to tenant, that is assignment, or a unit to a tenant, and also generation of back invoices. So if I want to add this particular unit property details, I'll come in this particular section, change them appropriately, and just click update. Apart from that, we also have the units tab, the tenants tab, the rent price tab, or the raised invoices tab. Overdue rent can also get this particular report in this section. So I want to add a unit to this particular property. So I'll just click add unit, give it a unit code. So maybe I'll say this is A1, A01. What is the room type? I'll select room type. Is it 2-bedroom road view, presidential suite, default, and many more. So you will ask yourself, where do I configure this particular room type? Or unit type. This is very simple. I'll just close this temporarily. Under properties, we have got unit types here. Of course, if I open that in a new tab, we can see all these particular unit tabs registered here. I can remove or delete any, and also add any particular unit type. Yeah, that is why to configure the unit types. So I'll just get back to the property profile and click add unit, and I'll register my unit A01. Select the type, no, default. Which floor is this particular unit found? Oh, of course, maybe in the ground floor, so I just leave it at 0. What is the room size? If I have what the room size, I can define in terms of square feet area. So I'll not do that right now. We have what the number of rooms. How many rooms does this particular unit have? So say maybe it has 2 or 3 rooms. How many washrooms? Maybe 1 washroom. What is the monthly rate? Monthly rate is the amount you want to charge this particular tenant on a monthly basis. So of course, this one goes to monthly rate. So I'll define my monthly rate to be 15,000. Daily rate, if applicable, I'll do that. Now, the daily rate helps in room booking, especially if you're doing short-term leasing. So short-term leasing comes to the daily rate, and of course, the long-term leasing comes to the monthly rate. So I can define a daily rate for this particular room if I'll want it to also be subscribed under short-term leasing. In this particular case, I just leave that blank. I don't want to go for short-term leasing. Is there one-off price for this particular room? So this one helps during this particular unit sale. If you want to sell a unit within an apartment or any given location, you can define the selling price. You can also get to insert the rent deposit amount if applies to this particular unit. Of course, in most cases, the rent deposit is equal to the monthly rate. Is there water deposit? It's not a compulsory field. If there is a water deposit amount rate, then you can also put it here. I'll just put 1,000. And electricity deposit amount rate, I'll also put 1,000. So we have got this radio buttons. Is this particular unit furnished? You can say yes or no. So for furnished units, in most cases, they'll be queried during short-term bookings, which allows only for renting or leasing of this particular furnished rooms. So if we say it's furnished, then you should define the daily rate. If it's not furnished, that means okay, it can go with the monthly rate. So I'll just leave that as it is and just click add. And you see now what happens. I've already added one unit, and of course the number of units displayed there, and of course the unit itself also visible in this particular section. So in case I wanted to edit this particular unit, if I gave it wrong information, I can just come here and click edit. So editing will give me all this particular information, of course, in this particular pop-up, or where I can now change this particular information appropriately and just hit on save again. So it is as simple and direct as that. Yeah. So we have also other two buttons here. The one for viewing tenants. If this particular unit has got tenants, you'll have to see it there. Then you also have the delete button. If you want to delete this particular unit, you just hit the delete button. Yes. So that is how to register unit and a property. Now, we have defined the property and the unit and the rates, but then we have not gone through tenant registration and how to assign this particular unit to a given tenant. And that is what we're going to go through in this short session again. Okay, now we want to add tenants to you. We want to register tenants and assign this particular unit this respective of tenants. And we're going to register like 2 tenants. The question is, how do we register tenants in the system? Assuming you got a new tenant, how do you register their information in the system? It is easy. I'll come to the property and to the tenants section, click tenants, and we have this particular empty list. There's a registration form at the top, which I'll click to open the icon to open the form. And within this particular form, I'll be given this particular details to fill and submit or save. So I'll register the tenant, and I'll call this particular tenant John Doe. Give it a phone number. I'll not give it an alternative, but give it an email address. Give it an ID or a passport number. Yeah, I'll just give it a random one. This is a male, of course. Date of birth, you can define that, number of kids if available, and the employer, and of course whether married or not married. I'll just choose that for now and just click active because it's an active tenant and save. So it is just that simple to register a tenant. So I've just registered a tenant. I have not assigned this particular tenant any unit or assigned a unit to this particular tenant. Now, the concept is you register tenants once in the system, so you don't have to register this tenant again. Even if they are repeat tenants, you don't have to go through that particular registration process. So what follows is that this particular tenant can be assigned many units or even just one unit. That is why you register tenant once, and now you can always consume that particular tenant information, assign him or her different units at different times of the year, or whenever they come relooking for the same units within the property. So that is the importance of registering a tenant outside the property. So we want to go and map this particular tenant to the units that we already registered. So how do we do that? Of course, before I get into that, in this particular section, there are this particular information which I've registered. Tenant name, this is a shortcut link. If I click on it, it will open the tenant profile. At the far end, we have got view profile, of course, edit tenant details, which will give that form. We have got units. You can click to just say in a nutshell how many units is this particular tenant occupying or has been leased to him or her. We also have got the last delete action button, to at least remove this particular list. So if a tenant is inactive, you don't have to always necessarily delete this particular tenant details. You'll only come to the tenant edit icon and mark them as inactive. So with that particular setup or setting, they'll not be able to log into the system or invoices rest to them. So I'll close that and I'll just briefly show you what a tenant profile is by just clicking the name and open that in new tab. So this is a tenant profile. They can log in and also see some of this particular information and adjust, of course, what they're allowed to appropriately. So we'll get into this later on. That is the tenant profile. For now, let us assign this particular tenant to the given unit that we registered. So to do that, I'll click on properties, of course, open this particular property by viewing profile. And of course, if I click on units, I'll see that particular unit I registered. Then I'll click this particular second button, add unit to tenant. I'll click that. I'll have to select the unit. Currently, I only have A1. The moment I select that, it will get me the rent amount by default. I'll select the tenant. Okay, our tenant is John Doe. From which date to which date is this particular lease supposed to run? So I'll say, okay, from March 2023 to maybe August. And then, of course, if the rent amount is correct, fine, I'll go with it. If I have to edit it downwards, then the system will automatically register a rent discount that has been given to John Doe. So for example, if I do 14,000, then there will be 1,000 discount applied to that. If this person has paid a deposit, then you have to capture that deposit. How much have they paid? If it is the same amount, or if it is 17,000, you'll have to capture that here and set which accounts have received that particular deposit. If it is has been received through maybe bank, KSB bank, then you'll have to give it a reference number. And of course, mark this as active because this is an active tenant. Then we have got this particular section below, which allows you to add extra charges or assign rather extra charges to this particular tenant. So how do we do that? It's direct. I'll just come to other charges section. I click on the plus icon. And this will give me a form here, which will prompt me to select account. So this is a charge account. Okay. Am I going to also bill you parking fee? Yeah. And I'm going to bill you parking fee of 500 shillings. Do you want to bill you anything else? Okay, I'll just come and say, okay, I'll maybe do garbage collection, the hygiene stuff, and in this I'll charge you 300 shillings. So with that, you can even add more and more and even remove, depending on the agreement or how you operate as a property. And then I'll just click add. If I don't have anything more to say, I'll just click add. And that is it. It has automatically registered this particular tenant in this particular unit and in this particular property. So that is why you can see we have got a success icon here. They want to print receipt. Of course, because I indicated that I received the amount on deposit and on deposit for the current month. So if I click print receipt, that is it. I'll get receipt for the 17,000 deposit that I just inserted. I'll close this for now. I don't need that. I'll close that for now. So, and of course also close that. So, in this particular property, the tenant section tab is that tab which is currently active. Of course, after registering any tenant to this particular unit under the property, you'll have them listed here. The system will automatically redirect you to this particular tab. So we can see that John Doe is occupying A1 and from this date to this date, and yes, currently occupying. This is the rent charge. Other charges that have been added to their monthly rent is 800, and that, if you remember, is the parking fee and the garbage collection. So the total rent should be 15,800 by the end of the day. So if I click edit, I'll view the same information. You can see the total charge is 500, 300. So that is it. And then we also have got other action buttons. For example, raise rent. This is the raise rent invoice. If I wanted to raise an invoice for this month, I'll do it in that section. If I wanted to raise an opening balance, I'll do it in that third tab section, just specifying the year, the month, the amount, and that is it. If I want to add bill invoice to this particular tenant, I'll click on the fourth button. So the purpose of this is there might be a damage, there might be a fine, there might be any other charge which was not captured in the extra charges, but now could be specific to this particular month only. Because remember, in the extra charge section where we added the parking and the garbage fee, that will remain, and while raising invoices, it will always be captured on a monthly basis. Now, what if this particular month, this particular tenant has got a damage, or we just want to add something like 1,000 onto his monthly bill for any other thing that might have happened? Then you have to do it in the fourth button, which states very well that add bill invoice or an invoice. So if you click on it, it will give you the year, the month, the bill type. Is it water units bill? Is it an extra service charge? Or is it water tap breakage, KPLC account, and so on and so forth? So these particular account types or bill types are set in the accounting configuration, and I'll show you in our later video. So I'll just close that. Then you have got the last button, which is the delete button. If you want to release this record, then this is where to do it. So that is how to map a tenant and a unit. So by the end of the day, you can see that you have got one tenant under this unit, and we also have got one unit here. Of course, you can add more units if you want to, and of course, currently we have not raised any rent invoice, and of course any other charge. So that is what we're doing in our next video. How do I generate an invoice, bulk invoice, just specific invoices, and how do we then receive payments?
At given particular time or date of the month, you'd want or you'd wish to raise rent or raise rent invoices, meaning you want to send invoices to your tenant to pay their monthly rent. Yeah, so that is what we call raise rent invoice.
So how to raise rent invoice? We have learned that it is supposed to be done monthly, and of course at specific dates. So we have got an arrangement which allows for something called a background task or a cron job, whereby if you agree with the our clients, then you can put something in the background to automatically raise this particular rent invoices at specific dates within the month. So if it is 30th, if it is 28th, if it is 1st or 2nd, then at that particular time, all other tenants will find the invoices notifications. So that is the first thing. We also have got the bulk raising of rent invoices per property and for all the properties. And of course, the one that we saw earlier, that is raising a rent invoice just for a single tenant. So we are going to go through all of them so that you can see how they work. So I am going to start with raising a rent invoice to John Doe. I'll get to the properties, open our demo property one, go to the tenant section. And in the tenant section, there's this particular second button, which is talking about raise rent invoice. So if I click on that, it will get me the month, the year, that is, and the month, and of course, a narration. So I'll just say, okay, I want to raise rent for March, and give it no narration, and just click raise. That is successful, and as you can see, even within our property profile, the 15,800 has already been populated in this particular section. That means we are expecting 15,800 from this particular tenant. Now, if you had got like 1,000 tenants under this particular unit, you wouldn't be doing that record per record. What you'll do is to use this particular generate bulk invoice, and this will go, of course, it has got the same format. And once you click on raise, it will go through all the tenants in the list and raise them invoice. I already raised this one, so that's why I don't want to raise again. So we can see that in this particular section. So the next question will be, how do I get the invoice itself in case I need to do a printout? The system sends SMSs to tenants if the package is also given by the vendor with us, then the tenants will automatically receive this particular invoice message of 15,800. We also have bulk download of these particular invoices, whereby you can just click the bulk download, save as PDF or even print, and share to them physically. So I'm going to show you first how to get this particular invoice. If I click on raised rents into bracket invoices, I'll click this particular filter, the month, of course, and the year. Once I click on the filter, I'll get this particular data now filtered out. Now you can see rents for that particular period of time. We have got the tenant details, the reference. We also have the unit, of course, the same unit. Now, the system has splitted this particular invoice into 3 items. We have got the monthly rent amount, which is 15,000. We have got the parking fee, 500, and the garbage collection, which is 300. And all of them have not been paid. There's no amount paid against them. And of course, you have got the rent balance in this particular section. Of course, the status will remain unpaid. Now, the system does this because you'll find that some people opt to pay this particular rent in bits or separate them into this particular income heads, that is the rent heads. That is, if you're handling the electricity, if you're handling the parking, if you're handling the garbage, if you're handling the service charge, then you'll have to specify which particular product or service you may paying for as a tenant. So that is why they are split. And if I wanted to get the invoice, I'll just click any of the 3 action column and click print invoice. And you see this particular invoice will get me, of course, this particular information, the unit occupied, the month, the description. Now you can see there's the monthly rent, the parking fee here, and the garbage collection here, which is summing up to that particular information there. So that is how to get the rent invoice. Now, the next question will be, how do I settle these invoices? as the tenant. There's a payment integration that I'll not dwell much into, which we also do, whereby if you pay through paybill, then that particular data or information is given to us for integration, so you don't have to come back to the system and do any other sort of reconciliation. So how do I receive money? Assuming I'm the agency or I'm the landlord, property manager. Okay, that is very simple. After logging into the system, I just come to the properties. Okay, there are two ways you can receive this particular amounts blindly, and you can just receive a given amount against a given invoice. So to receive a given amount of money, that is payment, against a given invoice, you'll just come to the property section, properties, view profile, raised rents, and of course search for that particular tenant by name, by ID, or even by the amount they're paying for rent. So with this particular information, we have got this particular monthly rent, parking fee, and garbage collection. So if I wanted to only pay the monthly rent and ignore the parking fee and the garbage collection, I'll just click on action. Then at the far right, there's this particular aspect of receive payment. So I'll say, okay, I'm receiving payment through maybe M-Pesa or bank for the March, and the amount I'm receiving is 15,000. And this is paid by myself. I'll say admin demo. And of course, the payment date, the reference if it exists. Bank always have references. And just click receive payment. So that will automatically settle this particular payment. Now you can see the balance is 0, it is paid. And of course, we have got even this particular balance rent dues reduced to 800. So that is paying against a specific invoice head for any given tenant. Now, because that will also be tedious, some of these particular tenants just pay randomly and never specify, or even pay the lump sum amount, which is 15,800. So assuming I wanted to pay the 800 remaining without having to pay or settle this particular invoices individually, then it's also very simple. I just come back to the dashboard, click on pay rent. It's a shortcut here, the dashboard. I'll select the tenant, John Doe. Which payment mode? Maybe I'm using bank. Which account? Maybe that. Not checks, but KCB Bank. The payment date is today, and the amount I'm paying is 800 shillings. The reference number, maybe if the bank has any, you do it there. This is now paid still by the admin demo account. I don't have any stories to tell. And now we have to select payment priority focus. In this particular 800 that you're paying, do you want to focus on extra charges first, or do you want to focus on the rent first? Assuming we hadn't paid the rent 15,000. So if it is on other charges, then the amount will be first redistributed to other charges, then rent later. And if it's on rents first, then the system will single out the rent package first, settle it. If there are balances, then it will settle the rest, extra charges, and all the other things. And now the last action box is all. Now this the system won't follow any order, but then just do it randomly. Just try and settle bills randomly. So I'll go for other charges first. And if I go for other charges, I just click pay. And that is done. Very straightforward. If I want to get the receipt, I'll just click payment successful, print receipt. And now you can see it has been distributed equally between the parking fee and the garbage collection fee. Automatic. You don't have to do anything else. Yeah. So that is how efficient and how this particular rent payment form can help you reduce the workload and the stress. So if you decide to even navigate to that property, click rent raised or invoices. I'll see all of them have been paid, and of course there are no balances. So that is how to pay rent in two ways. That is through single settlement of an invoice head, and as well as just doing a general payment and letting the system do its work of searching for the invoices and settling them out. So that is it. So the system also allows you to pay the balances or to settle the invoices in bits, because maybe you don't have the whole amount of money at the same time. So you can decide to say, instead of paying the 15,000 one-off, I only have 10,000, and I want it to be focused, or maybe to be paid against this and that, maybe on the rent alone. So the system accepts that. That is why if you come to receive payment here, you can specify the amount. The system does not restrict you to just paying the balance. You can specify the amount that you have in budget. If you have anything less, then you can do it and just submit. So if you're doing the next payment, the same procedure will be followed. And of course, you'll be able to still settle your bills in bit. So that should not be a challenge to anyone who is doing payments in bit. Now, something that I'll touch on lightly is overdue. Okay, before I touch on that particular aspect, there's something that I have skipped, and that is bulk printing of invoices. I said that these invoices can be sent through SMS, but then if you have to download them and give them to your tenants physically, you can just click under raised rent or invoices in bracket. Just come here, filter by date, and just click print invoices. So this will get you all the invoices. If you have got 30 tenants, if you have got 100 tenants, 1,000 tenants, then that will get you all that in PDF format, or even if you decide to print it directly, it will still do the job. That is the purpose of that particular bulking printing. Then we have got the last tab here called overdue rent. If there are any rents which are overdue, you'll find them here. Currently, of course, I don't have any. I can even combine this month. See? So if it was that I hadn't settled the invoices, then we will easily see the overdue rents. So that is it when it comes to raising of rent, invoices, and doing the payment. Now, assuming this particular person has got a fine, how do you do that? It is also a very simple thing. I talked about it earlier. I'll come to tenants list, and then we have got this particular fourth button, that is adding a bill or an invoice. So I'll just come here, select the bill type, and I'll say, okay, I'm going to charge you something called maybe service charge. And this particular service charge, I'll bill you 1,000 shillings. So I'll say, okay, I'll give it a narration. I'm doing this because of that. And just click add bill. So that will automatically add another invoice to this particular tenant. That is apart from the normal rent that is supposed to pay. So if you look at of course, the rent is 1,000. If you look at the raised rents, you'll see that a 1,000 shilling has already been added here, and it is unpaid. So this is the scenario you want to take to do something called payments in bits. I want to receive payment, and I'm going to receive first 500 with no reference. And of course, receiving that, you see the balances reduces. Even in the main dashboard, the balances are adjusted appropriately. You can see that at this section. And then I'm going to, now you see that changes to partially paid. And then I'm just going to receive the next 500, maybe through a different channel. and just click receive payment. And that is it. The balance is 0 and everything is done. It has been paid. So that is how to do payments in Bit. If I click to see payments, I'll see all those particular payments. They've been made, and I can even print the payment receipt for given payment. So that is well streamlined, and of course I can still see the rent dues and anything else there. So I have gone through all that cycle of raised rents, how monies have been received here and there, and that is well aligned. So the next thing will be, how does the tenant access and see this particular information? Or rather, what can a tenant do in their particular profile? So that will take us to the next bit, which is called the tenant dashboard or the tenant profile. So the tenant profile can be viewed by the admin. At the same time, the tenant profile can be viewed by the tenants themselves if they log in. So how do we access that? In the dashboard, I'll just go to property and get to the tenants list. In the tenants list, I can search for the tenant if I know the name, because I have got John here. And if I click action, I can even see the units that John is occupying and the rent amount. So I'll just click profile to view, and we can see what is available in a tenant profile. Here got the tenant details, the units they have occupied currently and even before, the dues, the overpayments if any. And of course, this button for send SMS balance reminder is only applicable for the admin. The admin is the person who can see this. The tenants themselves won't be able to see, and you'll see that. Of course, the admin can still edit this information. They can see the units they are occupying. If they have a deposit paid, they can have that seen. They can, the duration and all that can vacate. Can see raised rents over a given period of time. The tenants themselves can also see this and see the payment history and even download something called payment receipt. Their attachments, tenants can be able to add attachments in their profile as well as admin. If there are any attachment that you need, just click on add attachment file. You can be able to see it there. Complaints, tenants can be able to register complaints against any property they are occupying or any unit. They select the complaint box, attach a file, and just submit. So I'll say maybe noise from the neighbor, and I can attach a file, an evidence that is an image, submit. This is that particular complaint already registered. I can edit that appropriate. Yeah, so I'll just close. I'll show you where the admin can view that particular complaint. So of course, the damages, the tenant cannot register any damage. They are meant to register damage in their profile. They can only be able to view damages. So if in case this particular tenant has got maybe breakage, if I'm to do any fine, damage date, I said that it is now handle, and just submit, and then we'll be able to see that particular breakage. So as an admin, I can raise this as a fine. That is approval and raise as a fine, or I can just leave it at that. But then they'll be able to see that. Then have got account ledger. They'll be able to also see their statements here. So for this particular breakage, I'll add another breakage, and I'll call this particular breakage. If I raise a fine, that will be added to the invoices. That is to the tenant profile. So that's why I want to add another breakage here, and I'll say this is a water breakage, and the fine because of that. Yeah, in this particular breakage that you see, I'll raise this particular breakage water tap as a fine, so that you can see how this is added onto the invoices, the monthly invoices to this particular tenant profile. So I'll click raise. Okay. Water tap accounts. So I'll just do that. The amount is 100 and update. So you can see that in the damages, once it has been raised, you cannot edit, you cannot delete, and that goes automatically to the rent dues. Now you can even see in their profile, they have got a due of 100 shillings, and this for breakage of water taps. Yeah, that is what happens. So even if I go back to the property, the tenant unit, this information will be displayed all over, even in the dashboard. So for example, in the dashboard, you can see there's 100 already updated here. If I go to the property itself, raised rents, I'll see the 100 here already. And of course, I'll also see, yeah, so that information is available all over so that you can see it. Yeah. So then, as an admin, all these particular complaints, damages coming in through the tenant profile, where do you see them if you don't navigate to a tenant profile? Because it's very hard to predict what is in a tenant profile. So it's all easy. If you want to see all the damages and complaints coming in through the system, you just have to visit the property, and you have got the complaints here and the damages here. So the complaints is the first thing. So if you click complaints, you'll see the tenant raising the complaint, and it is in which particular unit and the property, of course, and what is the status, what is it all about, and is there any attachment? If yes, I'll be able to see that, and the date. So of course you can edit and delete, change the status, give a narration or a response, and just click update. So the same applies to damages. I can be able to view the damages that are coming along through the system and see what exactly is happening. So that is where to view all that particular information. So back to the tenant profile, and I'll require us not to log in as a tenant to see what a tenant exactly is able to do. Yeah, so to log in as a tenant, you'll also be given a link. Just as you can see, there's already a link to log in as a tenant here. And I'll use the username or the email of the tenant and the password that we have. So I've already copied that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sign in. And that is it. So we have all the tenants view where they can see in the system. And as you can see, the tenant can of course change their password. They cannot change their ID number, but change these other things as allowed. They can see the units that they've occupied over some time. They can also print that particular deposit invoice. They can see, of course, raised rents over a given period of time. Then they can also see attachments and make attachments. They can also see complaints and raise complaints. They can see damages registered in their profile, though they cannot register any damage. They can also be able to view the account ledger promptly. So that is basically what a tenant is able to do and is able to view in their particular profile. Welcome back, and now we are going to walk you through over the accounting in the property management system, and so that you can see how this is interlinked to the procedures or process that happen within a rental management or even property management setup. So the accounting is just in the sidebar, second thing. And as you can see, it has got petty cash, budgeting, expense payments, income, account types, a configuration. Choice of account is a configuration or registration of accounts, or general entry, account balances, balance sheet, profit and loss, and general ledger. So I'll just explain what happens in this particular module. So petty cash is an internal module to manage internal processes, whereby if employees are requesting for money to do this and that, then they can request through this particular session to be approved and get paid. So that is about petty cash. Then you have got the budgeting section where you can budget on expense lines, especially where these channels of expenses, you can budget on that here. Just give it a budget name, you assign a staff responsible, the year, of course, the accounts, which quarter, the amount, make it active and just save. So then with that, you can easily monitor expenses and income revolving around the budget set. We have got the expense and payments. So normally you'll be also handling some of the expenses and payments, management staff, payments, payroll damages, and all that sort of registration. So you can always register any expense and make payments against them in this section, where you have to select the expense type, the department handling that, the status, the amount, the date, the person paid to, and that particular set of information. So you can raise and do payments against the invoices. We also have got this particular section called the income. So just in case you need to record any other income which is not captured in the sale or in the listing of the property, then this is the place to do it. You can just raise an income and of course give it a status and an account for this particular income. Give it a department which is optional, the amount, and the person, and of course save it so that you can receive payments against the income. So we also have what the account types, which is the configuration for the 5 account types, the sub account types which you can set here and have that viewed well. Then we also have what the charts of account. You can register now the accounts themselves here in this particular form. I just select the account type, the sub account type, account code, name, opening balance, is it a key account or not, active, and just save. So you'll have all that particular list displayed here, and if you click on any, you'll be seeing the ledger statements against these particular accounts. Then we have got the journal entry form, which is split into 2. We have got the transfer and the new posting. So the transfer allows you to transfer money from one asset account to the other. You can select from which account do you want to withdraw this money, maybe from a cash and into the bank, the amount, the reference, the date, and then just click submit. Then we also have the account balances, which is a report just showing the running balances of every account. And we have the profit and loss. So you can query the P&L within a given period of time, and of course see how you've been making money at the same time. So apart from that, we have what the general ledger, and of course the general ledger shows you a transaction per given account registered in the system, and of course you can be able to see all that particular information here. So that is mainly what accounting is all about. So that is a well-established module to also allow for internal operations and management. Now, apart from that, we have the reports that is in the report section. So what is entailed in the reports is the account statements coming from the accounting, surplus statements, balances, expiring leases, rent payments, rent overpayments, rent balances, aging rent balances, archive rent list, unit statements, tenant statements, and landlord statements, landlord unit list, unoccupied units, and general expenses. Now, these are summary reports that are way handy and helps you to at least know how your property is running. Account statement is for all accounts. Expiring leases is a very important report because based on the date that a tenant should occupy that particular unit of property, you have got that particular information pulled and displayed here. We also have got the rent payments, and this is within the next 3 months. That is what is displayed here. We have got the rent payments, where you can now filter rent payments by given property. So you just have to select the property from which date to which date, and of course you'll see that report here and even print these particular payments. Rent overpayments, which shows you if there in any case an overpayment, then you can be able to track it from this particular window. Rent balances is a report where you can filter rent balances by year within the 30 periods, 60 days or 90 days. For a single property or for all properties, you can be able to filter that and see that here. We also have what the aging rent balances, a good report. So this one will show you, of course, per person, their rents in the last 90 days, that is rent balances. 90 plus days, 60 days, 30 days, and of course currently this month. You can be able to see that here. Then you have got the archive rent list, and these are old arrears. These are just like arrears. Let me say bad debts. You have them all logged in this particular section. You have got the unit statements, where you can now filter a given unit statement and have that information displayed in this particular section. Then you have got the tenant statements as well. You can filter a statement per given tenant and give them out. You have got the landlord statements. If you have got landlord setup, then of course you can select any given landlord, get them their statements for a given period of time. Then you have got the landlord unit list, and this shows the owner or the landlord of that particular unit, and the unit code they own, the type, the property, and the rent amount, and whether it is currently occupied or not. So it's also a very good report to see that visibility. You have got unoccupied units, which is also a hand report. It will show you all the units which are unoccupied currently in the system. We also have got the general expenses, which is the last report, and this just coming from the accounting setup, whereby you can be able to track your expenses appropriately. So that gives a summary of the property management system on the rental management system. Thank you.